is from Luke. It was the Italian poet Dante, who in the 13th century accurately described Luke's account of the Jesus story as the gospel of compassion. For it is only here that we are told the two most famous parables in the New Testament, the story of the Good Samaritan and that of the prodigal son. The former is a clear teaching about the extent of God's mercy. Both the priest and the Levite, a temple guard, walked past the wounded stranger on the side of the road. But the Samaritan, who himself was kept at a distance by the Jews in Jerusalem, stopped and cared for the man. Then we have the parable of the prodigal son, which is really the story of the prodigal father. A father who is a spendthrift, who is prodigal with his love. A parable that is the companion to Jesus' teaching that we should call God Abba, a loving parent, rather than a distant judge. Two uniquely Lucan parables, and 2 times over, a portrait of a God who is full of compassion. So it is not surprising that again it is Luke, who alone of the 4 evangelists tells us of the Lord's reaching out to the repentant thief, with Jesus once again extending a hand, this time a hand nailed to a cross. Remember too that it is only Luke who reports the words of Jesus, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," where the Lord shows mercy, even to those who nailed him to that cross. In the Acts of the Apostles, Paul mentions Luke the physician as someone who sometimes accompanied him on his missionary journeys. Presumably, this is the same Luke who wrote the Gospel. And because of his work as a doctor, it makes sense that he would highlight the moments of healing in the Lord's public life. I think today's Lucan text is a perfect bridge as we move from the 40 days of Lent to the holiest week of the year, culminating in the final 3 days in Latin Triduum. A Triduum that will take us through Thursday's supper, where the bread was broken and the wine poured out, to Friday's cross, where his body was in fact broken and his blood poured out, and then to the 3rd day, when he rises in glory. It is sometimes good to remember that none of the Gospels was written with the intention of its being read in isolated passages proclaimed at the liturgy each Sunday. So the text is really best read as a whole. Perhaps you might consider this Holy Week finding the time to do just that. Block out between 70 and 90 minutes to read straight through one of the 4 Gospels. Better yet, over these last days before Easter, you might do that 4 times. But to end with a final word on the season of Lent. For 40 days, we have been invited to do 3 things. Find more time to pray, combine our prayer with some kind of fasting, putting God first before my wants, even some of my needs, and then use what money we've saved to do almsgiving, sharing with those from whom we expect nothing in If you're like me, as the Lent draws to a close, you might too feel a bit embarrassed at how often those three things were not done. But perhaps that's the pastoral reason why every Palm Sunday we are given an overview of the last pages of each of the four Gospels. It's a final invitation to prepare for the high holy days. How? To try again this final week, to find more time to pray, to accompany that prayer with some honest fasting, doing without, so that we can share with others more of the bounty that God has given to us. And thus, we will do our part that the kingdom might come just a little closer this week as we end the season of Lent.